All right. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Dr. Brian Albery. I am the co founder of ChiroSpring, along with my wife, Dr. Chrissy Albery. We founded the company back in 2011, and we're going to be starting a series of webinars featuring our guest today, Dr. Larry Lowen. And I'm really, really excited for you guys to meet Dr. Larry. The topic today is an interesting one. It's actually why I switched, a chiropractor story of finding better software. So we're going to dive into that topic in a bit. But before we get started with Dr. Larry, I just want to remind you guys that we do have a chat. So you'll see in the bottom there, you can say hi in the chat, and we can see that live during the webinar. There's also a tab at the bottom for questions. So I do encourage you to put questions in there because we're going to have a Q&A at the end, and we'll ask Dr. Larry some of those questions, or even questions for myself. We are recording the webinar, so if you have to leave early, that's fine. This will be sent to you so you can catch up on it, watch it later. And we're also going to have an email survey that goes out if you want to answer that survey. That always helps us improve these webinars. So without further ado, Dr. Larry, if you wouldn't mind giving a little bit of an introduction and tell us why you're here today.
Sure. Thank you, Brian, and good afternoon. Yeah, Dr. Larry Lowen Jr. I am a junior. Sometimes leave that off. It's a little easier to say it as, just without the junior. But it's funny how it comes in on documents as well, too. It's a little bit of both. But originally, I grew up in Southeast Michigan. And in Michigan, we always show in the MIT where we're from. So right here, really easy to do. That's where I went to Farmington Hills Harrison High School, and then graduated in 1991. Moved on to Western Michigan University, where I did my undergrad. And from there, took off a couple of years because I'd worked at a law firm, thought I was going to be a lawyer, wanted to be an attorney. So I worked with attorneys, kind of ran stuff to courthouses, the grunt work, as they say in law firms, but saw tort reform, saw litigation, a whole bunch of stuff that basically lawyers do. But interestingly enough, after my undergrad experience, I was able to get a job at an undercover private investigative firm. So I worked for a PI firm. So we did cases from a different perspective because we were doing the grunt investigations. We were doing the interrogations and getting surveillance done. So it was kind of a unique experience. But the bottom line was, at the end of it, I decided I did not want to be an attorney. So I had 3 years in and some undergrad experience and a degree. And I was like, what am I going to do? So my old roommate was in chiropractic school. And so I called him up and I was like, hey, so what are you doing? I basically just kind of planned to go down and visit him and see the campus at Life University in Marietta. Went down there and literally almost that weekend, I was like, I think I'm going to go to chiropractic school, and did the whole sign up. So the irony is everything was geared towards law. And then within a moment, I was like, I'm going to go to chiropractic school. So I graduated in Life Chiropractic 2001, and then started an office right away from the ground up. No phone calls, no patients, no nothing. And so there's I'll touch on that here in a few minutes, but ended up having an office there, sold that, went into the corporate world for healthcare for a couple of years, and worked my way up to the executive level position, and took a severance out of that. And then came back into chiropractic, where I've been since, and I have this office up here in Crystal Falls, Michigan, in the UP.
It's an awesome story. So wanted to be a lawyer, and then you just did a complete 180, and now you're a chiropractor.
Yeah, and I think it might be a genetic predisposition. All the men in the family, they use their hands. There's mechanics and dentists and brains at the same time. So maybe I was predestined to be something like that, either a mechanic, I guess a mechanic of the spine, if you want to look at it that way.
And behind you, I see some headphones. So you're more than a chiropractor. So what else are you doing?
Right. So one of the things I think, as far as everybody's got their walk to how they got to where they got to, and I guess to be perfectly transparent, when I went into chiropractic school, talked to chiropractors, saw their practices, saw how chiropractors needed to put themselves out there in the community, in the market, and some of the things they had to do to draw patients in. I didn't really like that. But the problem was that was all the avenues of getting patients, getting your name out there in the market to see, here I am. And what I found quickly was, of course, a naive late 20-something-year-old is nobody really cares that you graduated chiropractic school, and the public kind of half, ignores. You can have a billing, they'll just pass right by, even if you're on a busy aisleway there. So um, at that point in time with my first practice, I was like, okay, I've got to do this differently. So we ended up selling a practice that I started from scratch, broke even on it, went to the executive level, 06, 07 transition. When I came back into chiropractic, I actually bought this office 18 years ago. So it had some life to it, but I wanted to bring more life into it. So what I did was kind of took from what almost opposite of how we're instructed to come into a market with spinal screenings and different sort of marketing tactics, reduce your fees for this. And so I said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to educate the public about things that they want to know. So I developed a radio segment. Actually, it was a paid advertised segment, just like everybody else on the radio. But what I did when I went to the station manager and I said, I want to do this way. I don't want to sell anything. I just want to teach, and I'm going to teach. And then from there, I'm going to build trust. And once I build trust, at that point in time, people will make a decision if they want to come see me for, fill in the blank services. So the funny story behind that is after 2 years of doing radio, I just built the segment from a 5-minute segment to a 10-minute segment to a 15-minute segment. And I still had not given out my phone number in 2 years, never asked for business once. Station manager comes to me and says, you've been an advertiser here for 2 years. Would you like to give out your phone number at least? And I said, well, yeah, I'll start doing that now. And I said, I think I've probably built trust in the community because I saw some more traffic coming in. And from there, what happened was over the years, I drew a big audience in the local area that's grown now to outside the county area. Now we have people listening from really everywhere. As they say, a small town hit on my show. And now I'm part of programming for the radio station. And the show developed. There was time during COVID where everybody was home. They asked me if I could fill airtime. I did. And I took answered live calls on the air, healthcare questions during my show. And then we transitioned to an afternoon. So now I'm the only afternoon live doctor show on this side of the UP every Thursday at 12 o'clock. And so behind me is my studio where I do some recordings. That's not lit up right now, but that lights up. And so I'll bring guests in here. I'll do some pre-records. And I really built the show kind of how like a syndicated professional show should be done. I would say probably put in tens of thousands of hours worth of time and work, but it's a polished show. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And that is the main driver for the overall exposure to the market for my practice. And it's been a very big driver for that, but it was built from the ground up.
That's wonderful. What I really like, Dr. Larry, about you specifically, and why we're going to bring you in more and more with our listeners, is because what you have is the ability to offer for chiropractic a different way to get patients. So, a lot of the way patients are coming in is it can seem salesy. You're going to shopping malls, you're doing this, you're doing that. We're not going to cover all of that today, but that is something that our listeners are going to learn because you've done that and you have a huge patient base that comes to you and will say without any salesy, tactics or anything.
Yeah, it's a great way to say it, Brian. And I was to say now at 51 years old, and if there's a salient point to get from all this and a seed to be planted is I want you to have what I have right now. And it's a very constructive, very safe way to build a practice. Some of the metrics that we all talk about in chiropractic is new patients. There are times where I've had 50 new patients coming here in a month, and they just come in organically. On average, we probably have 20 to 25 new patients, maybe 30 on some months. Our retention is high. Our attrition is low. We have very few missed appointments and very few cancellations. And when I give out a care plan, people take it. When their insurance doesn't cover, they pay for it. I really don't have very little of the headaches as far as the practice goes, because I solved some of the issues and I still get the same marketing tactics of how to draw patients in my in-mail box every single day, almost like most chiropractors do. And I just look at them and I go, there's a better way, and I proved it, and it can be taught. That's the nice part about it. Anybody can do what I did, and it's very methodical, very straightforward, but it talks to the public in a way that they understand. and chiropractor happens to be the educator behind it. And that's what really people have latched onto. And I've listened to thousands of listener feedbacks. They email the radio station, they come into my office, and that's what they tell me. And so that's kind of what, at some point down the road, when we do some more of these, I'd like to be able to share with everybody.
Sounds fantastic. Let's just let's dive in with just a random fact before we kick off on the
Sure.
main topic. What's something somebody we don't know about Dr. Larry? Just a random fact.
Random fact is I was in chiropractic school, and the fact that one of the friends that I had there, her dad was a New York City police officer, retired. So I went to New York, and he showed me around. We did all the touristy stuff, and then he goes, "Hey, you'd want to try to go on Letterman?" And I was like, "Sure." Now, behind the scenes, I just love the top 10 of David Letterman for like since I was a kid. I was like, "Yeah, this is great." So we're in a long line of people, and they're asking trivia questions, and I got the trivia question right. So they put me at like center stage, third row. There was David, there was me, and my wife was at home at the time, and she could see the back of my head, which had hair at the time, but no longer does. But I think she could still recognize me to this day if I was in there. But yeah, I was on David Letterman. Side note, I wanted to go take it and further and go to California, see if I could get down the prices right to win a car. But
Wow.
Bob Barker got his carotid artery scraped that weekend I was there, and no
Oh,
taping that week, and so I missed that boat. But anyway, that's my random fact. I was on Letterman, but not in the studio audience, which
that's
was
great.
cold, by the way, bro. It was cold. It was a cold studio, not the audience itself. The temperature was cold. He kept it really frigid in there. It was kind of fun.
Didn't want the audience moving much.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about your practice style. You mentioned, the number of patients you're getting,
Right.
just kind of naturally. What is your practice style?
I say I'm the blue collar chiropractor. Very nuts and bolts, very mechanical, bone, joint, muscle, nerve. I don't have things that I actually at the office, like products. I don't have supplements here. So really what I did is I kind of kept it very baseline, very simple. Was people come to me for either A, advice, or B, treatment, or both. And so the practice style is pretty much geared towards that. I always say I'm the quarterback for their healthcare first. I don't look necessarily to see if chiropractic is the number one thing to fix them. I address the issues that come in, whatever it is. So for example, this week alone, I was probably involved in a half dozen cases that were where I'm involved with a couple different physicians, and we had a failed hip replacement come in here, and the physicians didn't know what to do about it. So I was on a team conference with them, and they're basically having me quarterback which direction to go, which tests to run. So I kind of do the basics, and then the basics build into these like nice complex scenarios whereby I'm helping solve some higher end complex medical conditions that are musculoskeletal related. Really, in an essence, kind of the sweet spot where we all like to be is there to treat, but also there to help and there to facilitate care and have a team approach. So practice style, like I said, is it's still very basic as far as that goes. You come in to my office, check in, see me, and from there I go, what's going on with you? And we just start with an open-ended question, and it can range everything from I've got a fused ankle to I blew up my back to I've got vertigo, and I start treatment for there and making recommendations. So it's a nuts and bolts chiropractic office is what it is.
Some of our listeners are going to be new graduates, but a lot of them are existing docs. You mentioned you're 51. Any key secrets to being in practice for this long?
A couple of them. It would be to really not diversify yourself too much and go for the carrot stick or the shiny stuff to just build in and bring in revenue. Patients and public have been told and sold so much, and they will buy. I'm not saying they're not going to buy. They will come through. They will want fill in the blank, laser this, supplement that, you name it. But it fizzles and fades. I would say the number one thing would be to stick to the core basics and build that core basic first. Bone joint, you're a bone joint musculoskeletal expert, truly. Show that you have that ability through your actions, words, and deeds. And from there, what will happen is patients will go back to their families, their card groups, their camps, gatherings, and they'll talk about the chiropractor that they just saw that basically helped them on the most fundamental level. If it's a stiff neck, perfect. If it's a stiff neck and they just want out of pain, you get them out of pain, and then maybe they won't take a long-term care plan at that point in time, because that was one huge mistake I made 25 years ago was, well, they're not pain now, we're conditioned to go, well, they've got to have care beyond pain. And I know this flies in the face of a lot of the teaching, but the reality is the patient at that point in time is not ready for that. They might not be. So you have to build a network of in your community where you're the safe place to do business with. And once you have that, then they start asking you more questions about what can I do? My maintenance care, my practice, and just to kind of dovetail this point, the maintenance side of my practice has grown exponentially, organically, over the last probably 3 to 5 years, literally by default, just because people come back who've hurt their back multiple times, who came in for acute care, and they go, you know what, I'm just put me on the books. And so now our pre-schedules are way out. Like, we have people that basically own spots on my schedule. They have it, they never give it up, and they own the spots. And that was all organic by starting with the basics and building on the basics.
Right. So building trust.
100%.
Yep. All right. So let's shift gears here. Great to learn about your background, your practice, but you have been in this space for a long time. It's obviously working. You're seeing, your books are full. You're seeing lots of new patients organically. You obviously have an EHR. What made you decide that it was time to look around and switch EHRs?
It's a great question. And for everybody that's listening, I don't fit the profile to switch EHRs. I'm the opposite. The current EHR I have, it was a 2-system EHR. It served the purpose. It billed out claims. We got claims back. We posted them. Overall, when my staff was doing the job correctly, we probably collected 95% of production, maybe 92% on some years. The note-taking system I had was separate from that. It was basic, simple, and inexpensive. So combined, overall, I think from those two perspectives, it was pretty functioning system. But as it goes, and kind of going back to some of the prior experience of just kind of looking at how I operate and function, and going from an operational standpoint, and I asked myself the hard question: is it possible to improve what I'm doing, or is it good right now? Or is it good and could be great? Is it functional, but is functional okay? Is that definition okay? So I had to ask myself some tough questions introspectively and go, you know what? I can improve what I'm doing, and it can help the stability of my practice, probably help scale my practice, because there's some technology things that I know I could implement. And then on top of that, what's out there in the market. So a year ago, I went out in the market, and I started to investigate all the big players out there, all the small players, from the bottom end, the medium, to the high end. And my wife makes fun of me. She says, I can't even go through a drive-through, let's say at a fast food restaurant, if I want that, without overanalyzing each menu item. So I analyzed each menu item when it came across, and there's a lot of check boxes that EHRs have. There's a lot of similarities. So how do you split the hairs for what's out there?
Mm-hmm.
And so as I started going, okay, well, they all have these 8 out of 10 things. What's the differentiating factor, and why, and what's the reason? And that's kind of where ChiroSpring really started to bubble to the surface. It's the DNA of the company that comes into the function and physiology of the whole. So the core is right, the heartbeat is good, the DNA is solid. And so from there, that means the body must be functioning right. And I can tell you now, since we've gone live, it's absolutely true. And within 5 to 6 weeks already, and this is where actually I can get excited almost talking about software. I cannot believe that I didn't know that there was actually a way to improve job satisfaction by just implementing the correct software within your company. So I told my wife, I said, I always like going to the office now, but I'm coming to the office, it's even happier. Like, I'm excited with some of the things that ChiroSpring does. And at 51 years old, like I said, I could have just coasted the rest of my career with what I had going, but I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad now that I can spend the rest of my career toying, playing, tweaking, and having this really powerful powerful internal infrastructure in my office now that's going to help out. And from a patient feedback, we're already getting the feedback. People have been used to coming in for years, like, hey, we really love the SMS texting. Hey, by the way, that's pretty cool that the way you're scheduling now. I mean, so it's already getting the patient feedback. So it's even enhanced their overall experience.
So it's, yeah, and I love that. So I think of it as you have a car. Do you need a new car? Probably not. The current car runs fine. But it sounds to me like you're now equipped with a car that is faster, more, we'll say more luxurious. You're happier with it. Your wife driving in the car is happier, so you know your staff. And that's one of the things, one of the challenges in switching EHRs, because you really have to get buy-in from the doctor, particularly on the notes. But they're also interested in the claims and the billing side. But really, the front desk needs to have buy-in as well. And you mentioned that. So your front desk person, talk to me about that. What has their experience been like in terms of happiness for them?
Absolutely. So getting past the early stage due diligence and the fact that, and I think as chiropractors, we could all agree that we're people persons first. Like, we're hands-on because we want to help. Chiropractors, for on our positive side of things, people go, they're just nice people when they come see us. So companies and organizations, they may say that they are customer friendly, customer oriented, but really when it comes to push comes to shove, it's just they're basically mechanical. With ChiroSpring, what's happened with our front desk, when I was even coming into the office yesterday, actually after I got out of my radio show, my front desk manager had her task up, and she turned around, looked at me, she goes, I love this. She says, right now I'm answering phones, I'm interacting with patients versus texting, and I'm sending out statements all at the same time. It was just this beautiful little symphony of what's going on. So her feedback, and she's got experience at front desk work, not at chiropractic office, but just at other businesses, is she's a very technical, detailed lady. She just said, I absolutely love this. And some of the other features as far as the scheduling goes. And she had zero experience on billing healthcare, because I transitioned. My daughters actually were working for him. So dad had his daughters working for him for the last 5 years. So I transitioned them out, hired a manager back in. And within doing the training modules, she did 100% of the training modules or the knowledge base. Didn't even do live ones with that. She came in day one, and by the second week, she's billing insurance with zero insurance billing. And we're getting claims back already. So by the second week of going live, ChiroSpring, the way the infrastructure is set up, can take somebody that knows nothing, teach them, and within 6 to 8 weeks, they're actually doing the system and actually successfully utilizing the system. That's the seamlessness of ChiroSpring. That's how it works.
Yeah, and with our clearinghouse, we have a 97% acceptance rate. So I'm sure you guys are going to be seeing that as well. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Your front desk is also going to be really, really excited. So it sounds like she's able to do multiple things at the same time. That is what we are all about, Dr. Larry. We want to make sure we can add automations where appropriate that really free up the things that not only the doctors dislike, which is, hey, too many clicks, documentation takes too long. You want to spend more time with the patient, but your front desk. So we want to automate things. We've already done, you've probably seen the automated patient recall. You can send out broadcast messages. The birthday reminders are fully automated. You can personalize those. But we have a lot more. So our roadmap for 26 is like super, super exciting. So stay tuned for that. But let's talk about, you talked about why you wanted to switch, a little bit about our DNA, which is 100% accurate. We care about you. If a customer ever comes to me and they say, hey, this isn't working, for some reason they're upset, I drop everything and I say, hey, you're my friend, you're not my customer. So tell me what we can do to help you. Whether it's, hey, we need to add a new feature, or maybe you need a credit on your statement for some reason. We care about you and your practice more than we do about our business. So it's very rare to hear that, but that's the absolute truth.
Well, and it's interesting, the synergy, Brian, if I could just jump in here for just a second, because I want to get into the migration process and really some of the more nuts and bolts. and really, I would say probably genuine concerns that we all will have when it comes to transitioning into a new
Right.
software, because the hiccups. What are those hiccups? What are the unknown, the abysses? What could get lost in the ether for the all this patient data that I have? And is it, as my wife jokingly says, is the computer going to explode if I put this stuff in there? I mean, it's all this crazy headspace that starts coming in because
Right.
it's a fear thing. But the the neat part about it is that going through the process again, kind of getting where the traction on the whole thing, when after I talked to your staff, Nicole, and it was a really interesting thing too, folks. I think that to highlight this, Brian's staff, Nicole, who was the first person I spoke to, I told her which software system I was with. What she was able to do was actually do some due diligence on the software, and she made a really nice comparison of going, okay, this is what this means when they say cloud, and this is what ChiroSpring is. And that put on a light bulb on somebody who's not a technical guy. And it made sense. So she made it easy for me to understand, who doesn't have a lot of technology background, but I understood what she was saying. So she explained that. So that was a differentiator. But moving forward, the fact is once you ink the sign-on agreement, it's immediately apparent that from the DNA structure out, and in successful organizations, everybody's singing the same song on the same page, and everybody's there for the customer. And so instantly what happens is you start getting these systematic emails of do this by this, set this meeting up with this person, and that process begins. One other thing about the front desk, just so I can kind of frame that in a little bit better, I also hired a 15-year-old who never had a job before, and a high schooler. She learned purely from the knowledge base, and she's fully functioning on ChiroSpring. She just worked 3 shifts this week and had 0 errors on her side of things. So
Wow.
a 15-year-old could learn as well too. So it's really easy for any demographic to pick up and run with it. But the migration process is something that I would love to talk about when we, right now or in a few minutes, because I think that's really,
Sure.
if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So I think if we all can agree, like I said, is making a change, I would say, is an absolute. Knowing both sides of the equation now, I would never have not wanted to change. So, the double negative on this is change is required. If you want to have a solid, stable, structural practice where you're seeing a lot of people, and you want to have less worries on the back end or less worries when it comes to processing patients, then the correct EHR is essential. Price is another thing as well too, and that's the nice thing about ChiroSpring. They're right in that nice middle ground there. And again, as far as Brian goes, and that's respectable. It's one of those things. I always tell people, I'm not the cheapest chiropractor, but I'm not the most expensive. I'm right in the middle ground. So what that means is you're going to have some, pay some, and then you're going to have mutual benefit. You're going to get a service, and you're going to feel good about paying for that service. I know chiropractors that charge a lot of money, and they maybe more money than I do, but I live very comfortably. And so when it comes to ChiroSpring, for what they charge, it's really nice. Big thing is migration. So your brain makes up all these things that could happen. And you're taking all this data from one software and moving it over to another software. And error codes, I mean, all this stuff starts swirling in your head.
Just thinking about it, you get overwhelmed. Just thinking about it.
Thinking about it, you get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so the up here, and again, not having any knowledge, any prior experience, it's amazing how quickly the brain ramps stuff up. When we migrated, we had a hiccup. And so the nice part about it was, with the folks at ChiroSpring, they said, this is what we suggest, and move forward with this. So then all of a sudden I say, okay, my current or previous software needed to get some information over to us. They dragged their feet, which happens. That became a moot point. And so within the first 10 days of migrating the software, we basically just had our demographics over, but none of the insurance stuff. All my girls did was just grab the insurance card from the patient as they were coming in, catching maybe some errors on some digits, maybe they weren't transposed correctly, maybe on some of the cards. Some people go, oh, by the way, I had another secondary that I forgot to tell you about. Some of the little cleanup stuff happened. And then we just kept harvesting over, and really it only took them maybe an extra few minutes to get the information. And so now we don't even need to worry about getting the rest of the data over from the other software. And we just started billing, like I said, within 10 days. So the migration process, what was headspace up here, actually is it's almost nil. And that's ChiroSpring helped iron out all those wrinkles. And so, and I've got, I think probably around, maybe 10,000, maybe 15,000. I actually don't know the total number. So a lot of patient demographics had to come over, insurance stuff. I get a lot of reacts that come in here, and it's been seamless and fine. I say I don't even think about the migration process anymore. And here we are, probably I would say on week 2, the migration was not even a thought, which was like a consuming thought prior to come over. It was basically because until you have your data in there, you're just looking at this really nice software with nothing in it that you can play around with. Yeah. So I will tell you, that actually made it come to life. It's almost like taking, and all of a sudden the lights come on, the eyes come on, and now all of a sudden you've got this thing, it's alive. You got your patients in there, and you know that name, and there's their date of birth. And then the girls would start putting in all their insurance stuff. And then I started building charts from there. So the migration process, if it's an issue for you, if it's a barrier for you, it's actually not true in reality. And I kind of equate it. I always like to bring analogies to stuff that we know as chiropractors. It'd be like somebody that's never been to a chiropractor before comes to see the chiropractor. And you hear this all the time if you've been in practice for a while. That wasn't that bad. I'm like, what were you scared of? You're 65 years old. You had a bad back for 10 years. I just fixed your back in 4 to 6 treatments or a month. And I didn't hurt you. And they're like, no, it's not. It's amazing when the light bulb comes on. So it's the same headspace that we all have. But the nice part about it with ChiroSpring is it's the same way as somebody that's never been to a chiropractor before who has a great experience. And that's exactly what happened with the migration process. It turned to be a great experience.
So I think of that, it'd be like if you were wanting to move to a new house. So you have a house that's not broken, so why am I fixing it? But maybe there's some things that you dislike about the house, or you're not as efficient as you could be. If you lived in a different neighborhood, maybe better schools for your children. But the thought of moving is enough for some people to just not do it. You got to list your house, you got to find a realtor, you got to find a house. Then there's the stress of, am I going to get the right offer in? Is somebody going to outbid me? There's so many things, and people just don't do it. It's the switching EHR. So I think the number one reason that people do not switch EHRs is because of the fear of the data migration.
Wow.
And
that you would have that insight.
Yep.
And I can attest to that, Brian, and everybody, that was probably at least in the top 2, and maybe I could argue the top 1.
Okay.
And on the other side of it's not even an issue. It really isn't an issue.
Yeah. And I just wanted to share, we do migrate from about 30 systems. So depending on who you're using now, we can pull a lot of data from those systems depending on what it is. But it sounds like it's going well for you. Onboarding experience, how's that been? Trainings, all that?
Yeah, training. So now the traction side of things, as far as, day 1, patient number 1, I took the approach that my old note-taking system, that part of it, I wasn't as concerned to have that data migrated over. I kind of wanted to start a new, fresh SOAP note, a new, fresh exam. And again, going back to that mini excitement again, it sounds like a lot of work, but I was like, you know what? I'm ready to get rid of the stale old stuff that I've been using. And I want to start fresh. So really, I started building I kept my database from my old SOAP notes from patients and exams. So I'm keeping that just on a thumb drive in case there's a record request. But I started building my cases fresh. And the nice part about it is that doing that, I can tweak things with ChiroSpring. And one terminology that I learned from Brian was the fact that there's this ditto config, which is basically you can pre-build your templates for, let's say, neck pain, low back pain, or neck pain and arm pain. A lot of the things as we do is cookie cutter, although you have to tailor fit your notes. So the nice part about it is however your brain works, the way that ChiroSpring's software works is you can use some of their templates, but tweak them how you like it. And then from there, you can recreate your templates. And some of the ChiroSpring users I know have up to 50 templates. And then from there, you just tweak it and modify it per visit. And then you add in, patient statements and anything else that you do. And, I do a lot of, consultation on exercises at home. So there's this little button I can push for that. So now what I've done is I've done probably 6 to 8 already ditto configs where basically now I pop in patient I that isn't in the system yet. I just click that. And then I hit my note stuff that I need.
The whole thing.
It just goes. And so it's been really, it's taken off as far as that goes. And then I'm a community provider for the VA. So we already had our first round of notes go out to the VA because typically after a VA patient, so those of you that are in the VA system, they need the first set of notes right away. So my staff would typically have to wait for me. I'd have to print my report, send it to them. They'd have to send it out. Going back to the infrastructure question, that's what we did. It was bent. It was possible. I could do it. Now my staff just goes right to the EHR, looks at the VA, sends the note out the next day after the patient was here. Now we're compliant with the VA within 24 hours. No issues, no problem. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very slick.
Yeah. That's a secret. It's a secret weapon. That was described. And, the more of those you build, the faster you're going to complete your notes. And then you have time for other things, hopefully family, not spending time finishing those notes. I know a lot of docs are doing notes after hours or even at home with cloud-based systems, but we do not want that to be something you have to do with ChiroSpring.
And again, going back to those check boxes, a lot of those companies tout that, but how they deliver it and what they do, and this ties back into this to communicate with ChiroSpring is very easy. There's no 52 prompts. If you want to get a hold of somebody, you basically do the service at ChiroSpring. Whatever question you have, it dumps into the appropriate person's inbox. I don't even know how you do that, Brian, but it works. So one email you send out, the person responds back to you. You respond back to the person that responds back. They create a ticket, or they're on task, or they fix or help you do what you need to do. So literally, that's what we use the most. Like if I've got a little question about something, I just hit the service. I put in the title there. This is what it is. If it's a billing question or it's this, somebody gets back to you, you respond back. You can even do it in between patients. And there's it's ChiroSpring is infused within your office, almost becomes like part of the DNA of your office too. So where you're interacting with them throughout the day and they're interacting with you. It's like this seamless process that very, very few companies are able to do so to that level. And so it's been really nice. I just did that this morning. I was getting ready to come to the office. I had a question about something. And then one of the, I don't know if you call it, software person got back to me. He said, I'm going to bump this over to this other person. I'll get back to you, but this is what you do in the meantime. Little minor hiccup, no big deal. Stuff that we all experience every single day. And don't be scared of those hiccups. That's all they are. And it's not even that huge of a deal. So that's the nice part about ChiroSpring is they're there with you. They don't just go sign you up and then turn their back and have fun. Figure it out yourself. That's not the deal here at this company.
Yeah. We pride ourselves on customer support. And you kind of mentioned that, ChiroSpring's all around, not just with the support side, but the software does everything. So, front desk notes, you can check all the boxes. We're really big on patient engagement, the automations, reaching out to your patients, the texting, the two-way texting, online scheduler. We have a patient app, a provider app, really everything, and integrated payments. You can send out payment links to your patient, completely eliminate paper statements, everything in one system. And we're only getting better. So the roadmap, and like I said, in 26 is going to have some major surprises for everybody. So really excited. Dr. Larry, I appreciate all the information you've shared. What would you say if there was one piece of advice you could give to a doc that's established, they've been using an EHR for a long time? What piece of advice would you give them? Just like you, they have a pretty good, decent practice going.
Yeah. So the piece of advice for those of us that, are experienced and stuck in our ways, and, if you've made it this far in practice, you've built those calluses up. You've kind of, in a sense, gave yourself a couple of general medals here, because you've muscled through the market. You've got a flow of people coming. You've got your systems and processes working nicely. Maybe your metrics look good. Why not? If you could take everything you do right now and make it smoother and slicker, if you could take exactly what you're doing right now, improve your job satisfaction because your staff on the front end has less heavy lifting, because I can almost guarantee there's infrastructure problems right now, even a successful office, because of the EHRs and of the other softwares I've seen. That's the reason why I didn't choose to go there. How about that? So with ChiroSpring, it eliminates, in a sense, they did a retrospect back and looked at and says, well, this is what these EHRs do, and this is what we can improve, and this is where we're going to improve it. So they've already solved those headaches for you that you don't have to deal with. So it's going to smooth your operations out. It's glass. My workflow now, I used to have a laptop computer. I use my iPad Pro. That's my main interface. That iPad Pro sticks with me. That's where ChiroSpring is. That's where I can look at how the billing went for the day. I can look at what came back. I can look at the statements that came out. I literally just have my iPad in a little sleeve and I put it on a little easel. That's what I do with my workflow. It's almost like it's like an Apple of EHR. So
I love that. I've heard that from a lot of docs before too.
Have you? Okay.
That's always a huge.
I wasn't original on that one. But the smoothness of the operations, and my wife comes home because again, now I'm excited about a software. I go, look at this. Look what I can do now. Look at how easy this is. And on top of it, the fact is that it's so crisp and concise on many levels, comparatively speaking. So it's one of those things where do yourself the service to migrate. Well, the migrate thing is, as you heard, is not an issue, but do yourself that service. It's a reward, is what it is, and that's kind of how I feel. I feel like I got a bonus, and somebody came and gave me a bonus. That's what it feels like. So if you want to give yourself a bonus, and make your life smooth and easier, then you should just start talking to Nicole, and get that process going.
I love it. What about new grads? What would you say to a new graduate coming out of school?
Oh, new grads. First of all, I love you. We all love you. Coming out of school. In 2001, this didn't exist. And the system we started with, and if I had this in 2001, when I graduated with my first practice,
yeah. Imagine what you could have done.
Imagine what I could have done. The really heavy lifting headaches. Start as you mean to go is the easiest way to say it. You might as well start as you mean to go. I hired a outside consultant to kind of help me my first year, because I just jumped in and went into practice with really no revenue. And so, you're kind of, robbing Peter to pay Paul in order to make it work. With ChiroSpring, it's a lot less expensive than I even paid like a consultant in 2001. And if I would have had that then, so 2025, Dr. Larry, and I wish, talking to 2021, this would have been a shoe in an instant. Start as you mean to go, start right away, utilize the software. And then from there, the nice part about it, it'll scale with you. And as Brian said, 2026, and they just keep pushing and moving forward with stuff. So even like the software I've been with for probably 18 plus years now, not a whole lot of updates, not a whole lot of, we always had to make a phone call and it was scheduled time in order to get things fixed. I mean, it was really a lethargic process. And that's the one we've been using forever. And to if I could have started like that, it would have made life a lot easier, and I could have focused on some other stuff as far as starting out in practice goes. So it's a no-brainer either way.
I love it. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up here in a bit, but I do see some questions have come in on the chat. So if you don't mind, Dr. Larry, I'm going to some questions here.
Sure.
All right. So the first question: what was the defining moment when you knew you needed to switch EHRs?
So it was the defining moment when I came into the office and I looked at the fact that I had two separate systems and I had some paper next to my staff. And they were using paper, my note-taking system. And I looked at it, I'm like, this is, here we're supposed to, treat patients and align their spines. I'm like, I've got a subluxation here on the infrastructure of my office. So the defining moment was like, how can I straighten this, fix this, and correct this so it's a nice alignment? And can I draw a straight line from point A to point B with my office infrastructure, or do I have to kind of zigzag around? I had to zigzag around. So the defining moment was I realized that I go, something can be done that's better than what I'm doing right now, because I'm looking at a really a disjointed system, even though I was making it functional.
That's the kind of stuff that I cannot stand. I'm a perfectionist. If I have clutter, papers all over the place in my office, I would be switching to ChiroSpring too. So that's why we built it.
Yeah.
All right. Another question. So you looked at a lot of EHRs, Dr. Larry. What were some of the biggest turnoffs from the competitors? What did you dislike?
I'll speak from on my behalf, and this is solely coming from me. Okay. What I saw on some of them out there was some of the similar tactics that I'm taught early on as a chiropractor to sell the patient come in. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I saw some real cheesy sales carsy just stuff, and some big box names out there too. So I didn't like that. That was an immediate turnoff. Even though I was recommended to go to one of them, I tend to be, I'm a constant constructive critical thinker. I don't always take opinions right away, and I evaluate the opinions, see if they're logical and true. It's just what I do. So I said, okay, well, if this is somebody's opinion or if this is what they're putting out there. So I saw the salesy stuff. I didn't like that. I went to the low end because, same thing. If I'm going to, see a movie or read a book, I always go to the 1-star reviews and go, okay, what are the 1 stars? What are they saying? And then I go from 2 stars to 3 stars to 4 stars to 5 stars. And I saw on the some of the 1, 2, and 3 stars reviews it was as soon as you sign up, look out. I mean, can't get a hold of somebody, can't get a question answered. Nickel and diming fees. That's another big no-no. So here you sign up, it's a bait and switch. Yeah, it's for this, but now it's going to be this, and now we're going to add this, and all of a sudden now you're paying triple what you thought you were going to pay.
Sure.
And again, so getting sucked in, I was not what I wanted to do. So that's what I saw in the market out there. And again, as you start whittling down your list of companies, always at the top was ChiroSpring, constantly at the top, and then incorporate, my best executive opinion person, which is my wife, because she's really good at kind of hitting something from a different angle. We did some webinars. I did some webinars. I did some in-service, if you want to call them that, stuff that Nicole typically does. And every time I left out of that, I left out of it going, I guess I didn't buy the car that they wanted. When I left with Nicole, I left going that if I choose to have this, they're there for me. So it was one of this really, it's a subtle difference. Maybe it makes a difference to some. That made a difference to me. And then I've referenced this before. One of the other things, right before the day we started to sign up for you guys, I sat down with my wife. It was at the end of the office day. I said, let's listen to just another webinar. And it happened to be you, Brian, and Nicole was moderating it. And the other doctor that created the other platform that you got.
Yep.
Right. And what resonated was the fact of just how genuine you are, and the fact that you wanted to solve these problems for chiropractors through technology. And my wife looked at me, she goes, I think this is it. And I said, I think you're right. He's the guy. I said, and he now supersedes all the rest of them based on the core structures. That goes back to the DNA that we talked about earlier. So the DNA became obvious, apparent, and true. And that will cut through everything. You got to get through the minutia. You got to get through the unknown and the ethers. You got to do your due diligence. Don't take my word for it. Do your due diligence, because it'll be worth it for you. Don't have me say sign up for ChiroSpring. Know that you should by doing your due diligence. And I could guarantee that they're going to come to the top of the list, be one of the top 2.
Love it. All right. Looks like we got another question. How much importance do you put on looking at the company versus the platform in evaluating EHR? So,
Yeah.
everybody's got the checklist.
Hmm.
Where did you weigh the company versus the features?
So I would say um, I would do a 60-40 split company features,
Okay.
because a good company, as long as that's the bulk of the percentage, can always build features.
Mhm.
But if it's flipped, the features can fizzle fade. They can, term out, whatever it is, become irrelevant. But if the company itself doesn't address that or know they need to address that, then things will begin to fizzle and fade. Service starts to fall, and all of a sudden now you're an unhappy customer. So it was a 60-40 split. The company first, 60, features second. But the nice thing about it is the features are really pretty close. But as far as a weighted average, that's the weighted average, 60-40 company.
Got it. All right. Just checking here. Don't see any other questions. So with that, we'll kind of end things unless another question pops in. Do you remember, everybody, that this is recorded? So we're going to send this out afterwards in an email. There's going to be a survey we do want you to fill out, which will help us. I'm super excited to have this webinar, Dr. Larry, with you, and knowing that we're going to be doing a whole lot more of these. So, over time, we're going to continue to educate with the goal of improving chiropractic. So we can do that through software. You can help educate the chiropractors through, some of the things you've learned. Any last words that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, and looking forward, even on my radio show every week, so every show builds on the next, and that's what the plan is for this. Is I want chiropractors, as Brian wanted chiropractors, to have something that solves problems and weighted with the company percentage, like we talked about. Um, One thing too, as far as it goes, marketing, you can have a great, incredible system, but you got to have bodies, and you got to have people coming in. You got to have that phone ringing.
Right.
um, and you got to have it, and it can't be done in such an artificial way. So going forward, if I can plant the seed for you, what I want to do is help teach you bite-sized pieces on how to talk to your community in a way that they understand, in a language they know, so therefore you become the chiropractor that they know and want to see. In a similar fashion, and just kind of close with this side, as is one of the things with the medical profession, they by default just get the automatic respect, the automatic, well, whatever my doctor says I'll do. Even though chiropractors, they're, people come to see us, still, I mean, even from an insurance standpoint, from a corporate standpoint, the MD/DO still sits there at the top of the list. But you can actually have the same luxury they have if you do things correctly in your community, because that's exactly where I'm at right now. And again, I have a team of professionals that I use, and they treat me as a colleague. Patients know that, and so they go, okay, you're on the same plane. Even though you're a chiropractor, you definitely do things different, but I need to come to you first for this bone joint muscle problem. So going forward, my plan is to help teach you how to do that, and do it in such a way that I've proved can be done.
Sounds like a pretty good plan. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions. Just the last thing for housekeeping, check your email. You can reply to that email as well. If there's other questions that come up, we will answer those. But we'll go ahead and end the webinar. Dr. Larry, thank you so much for taking the time to speak on our webinar today. And it was great meeting you today, and look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Yep. Thank you, Brian, and good afternoon, everybody else, and have a great day.
All right.
Mhm.
Thanks, everybody.